Today in conversation with Saur Energy, it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Sharad Pungalia from Amplus Solar. He's been a long-term veteran of the solar industry, and we really look forward to this conversation today.
Thank you, President. It's my pleasure to be here. Looking forward for this.
So you've been a solar veteran of sorts for a very long time now. How have you seen the industry change from the time you started to now?
As far as solar is concerned, solar has maybe gone through a paradigm change or shift in terms of where we are today. But I remember the first solar project which I saw, and this is not when we were even considering solar. It used to cost somewhere around 20 crores a megawatt to do one project, right? From there, we have come down to as low as like 3.5, 4 crores a megawatt. So that's a kind of change you see. The efficiencies of module have gone up by like 30-40% even more, right? So those kind of technology changes have come. But the change which is, eye-opener and which has rather helped companies like us is the acceptance which we are getting in the market. And when I say acceptance, it is not only the commercial and industrial customers, because they are more educated and in terms of, we are technically capable and all. But the kind of interest I'm seeing on the residential space and people now going and setting up rooftop solars on their premises, this shows that now people have got confidence on this, that it is something which is there for long term, something which not only helps the ecology and the environment, but is also economically viable. So that is the change in perspective about solar.
So sure, we've all seen that big change happening in terms of awareness of solar. But tell me, since it's all around us now, we have national targets for solar. There is the 300 gigawatt target for 2030. How big do you think solar can actually be? Is that the limit, 300 gigawatt, or do you think we are underselling it, or do you think we should be thinking far bigger? How far could it go actually? Because we talk about intermittency, there are other challenges. What's stopping it from becoming 30% of total, share-wise?
See, one thing we know with solar is like while India is blessed because of the sunlight we get across the country, okay? Even we have got areas like Ladakh where, one of the best regions to put solar. So we have got that. So that ways we have good in terms of canvas for setting up solar projects. But at the same time, the limitation with solar is the amount of land it requires to do a solar project, right? So you need like about 3 to 4 acres to put 1 megawatt of solar. So there is I would say the inherent limitation would first come from good land options for setting up project. That certainly would also be a factor because the intermittency and the limited hours of generation would certainly have an impact. But we are such a huge grid, and one thing which our governments have done very nice, I would say, when I compare with other countries and all, is this one grid concept. So today, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, we are one grid, right? And because of one grid, and plus we are so vast as a country, we also have that time intermittency. For example, in Northeast, if let's say we are seeing sunlight at morning 5 or even before, here in West, maybe at about 7 o'clock, 6:30. So that kind of intermittency we have. So that helps not only the generation, but also affects the consumption pattern. So to that, and then the size of grid. And the other sources which we are also blessed with wind. So we have good wind. So all that is complementing. So I would say that from load, maybe the restrictions might not come, but we'll start seeing restrictions from the land.
Okay.
So that is something which has to be kept in mind.
So one of the targets where we've seen India kind of underachieve has been the rooftop segment, in fact, that you mentioned it. And so rooftops, I'm sure there's no shortage. And when we look at our big cities, for example, in Delhi or a Mumbai or a Bangalore, again, I believe the perception that they've underperformed in terms of adding on rooftop solar. Why do you think that could change, and why should it?
So there are multiple reasons for that. Like, and I can say this because with the experience of today operating rooftop in about 30 cities, 30 states, and dealing with all the customers, there are various reasons for that. One reason which have been like, the regulatory issues, because we have seen that time and again, and which is again something which is common for this, our sector always, is that discoms at times have like, at some places you see that one-off cases where they try to disincentivize such projects by, putting capacity restrictions or charges or delay in approval. So that is something which, has slowed down the pace, number one. Number two, the issue with these rooftop projects is they are asset specific. So for example, if I'm setting up a rooftop project and really to see the economic benefit of it, so I have to at least run it for 15-20 years. But a lot of industries do face this issue of taking that long-term call, because so that is also one of when people have plans, because tomorrow the way we are growing, the urbanization happening, the industrial areas who were earlier like in the city, now they are moving out of the city. So all that, and there is a significant cost which it will bring if, let's say, I have to relocate a project. So those kind of issues are also keeping people back. And then the credit issues, because especially that is coming from a developers like us, and even the small players like MSME and SME players. For them, getting access to finance is any which way a challenge. And none of the developers would be, that comfortable in putting in the RESCO model and all. So that's also one thing which is missing, that element of how does one put the backstop. So
Right. But when it comes to the residential segment, aren't we looking at ROIs or paybacks of literally 5 years to 7 years at most?
Yes. So mostly about with the subsidy benefit and all, 5 to 7 years kind of ROIs are available on residential. So yeah, that's true.
Okay.
But without the subsidy, that also will further be like 2-3 years further down.
I mean, we've been continuously tracking this issue, sort of a friction between developers and manufacturers in India, because we have quite a strong manufacturing sector, especially the smaller scale people.
Sure.
They've always asked for protection, saying otherwise they are targeted under Chinese imports. And developers are saying, look, to deliver low-cost solar, I need the lowest price modules. How do you think the government will ever find a balance? Because clearly they've been struggling. We've seen on and off duties, countervailing, safeguard duties. So many things have been attempted. And it's still work in progress, I guess.
See, the friction will always be there, because, as a manufacturer, I have invested my, capital.
Sure.
And for my ROI or return on capital employed, I need to, sell the product. And if I'm not able to sell the product, then my investment goes waste. And as a developer, what I need to do is because for me to sell my product, I need to arrive at the, lowest cost of generation. If I'm not able to do that, I won't be able to sell my product. So that's where we both have, our goals, and which are working inversely, for each other. So this is where maybe the government has to step in and, strike that right balance, wherein the amount of support which is required to be given to the manufacturers, so that they also are able to, produce the product at the affordable price. And that's good enough for the developers, as long as that has happened. So that's how the government can, strike the balance. The issue is like, the friction, why the friction increases, because, at times we are not certain on, where are we heading, because we have seen safeguard duty, then we saw BCD coming in, then after BCD, ALMM, then earlier ALMM was for utility projects, then ALMM was also introduced on net metering and open access projects. So, and then there was, extension given. So those kind of changes have been taking place. And because of that, there is an amount of uncertainty at both the ends. Even the manufacturers are not sure, and so is with the developers.
Do you think the ALMM pressure would remain for post-March, or would they stop it after that, the exemption?
So I think they should extend it. I would I would wish they would extend. They should extend it. The only reason is that right now the kind of demand we have and the targets what we have, I am not sure if we have adequate capacities to fund to supply. Because we also need. I did mention about the land issues, and
Right.
so I would believe that now we all are we all know that we need to optimize the storage the space required, right? For that we need higher efficiency modules. Now if I go for higher efficiency modules, now we'll have to see what kind of capacity we have here for higher efficiency modules. Now if I'm not getting higher efficiency module capacity, then it doesn't make sense to. So this is where I believe there is still a gap between the demand and supply, and as long as that gap is met, the government should consider extending it.
Sure. In many ways, we've seen Amplas as a standout, success story when it talk about the solar sector in India. Simply because from a startup, it raised funding, it raised private equity funding, then it actually provided a very generous exit to its investors, and it's gone on to bigger things now, which we'll come to. Tell me, as a 22-year-old fresh graduate or an engineer, if I look at the solar sector today, you've seen so many changes come in. What are the opportunities that person has from a career perspective? What could he or she look at in this sector today?
So see, as one is, and this is something which I am now seeing. I started seeing it when I interview or meet the fresh graduates and people. One thing which I have observed, and it's very, heartening to note, is people want to get involved with business where they think that it not only helps me to earn my livelihood, and also to maybe learn new things, etc., but it also helps them to get that feeling that I've contributed something for the environment, for the society, right? So people want to work into these energy transition and climate change technologies, and so renewable certainly is there. Where we all are standing today, and we have seen in the recent COP summit, the issues of global warming, the temperature rise. I guess while people would have different ways and means to address it, but one thing is common, which is people all want to reduce the dependence on fossil fuel and increase the dependence on renewables. And as long as that continues, so the amount of growth in this space is enormous. But having said that, there are still a lot of things which are to be done, the newer technologies which can come. So if I'm a graduate and a fresh graduate coming out, I know that there's still an hefty amount of technology play left. There are new technologies. For example, when we started our first project, that time, the efficiencies were so low. Now the efficiencies have gone so high. Now people are talking of bifacial modules.
Sure.
So for our new project, we have used bifacial modules. So there'll be a lot more such newer technological advancements which will come. So this is something which can interest people. And then the second thing would be, as and when we mature going forward, there'll be a lot of innovativeness which will have to be brought into contracting, financial engineering. So even as for a finance graduate or a commerce student, there are a lot of such open avenues which are there, because this is yet not a matured market. While we are getting capacities and all, the maturity is still not come. So I would say that technological maturity is still yet to come. So is the structuring and financial maturity. So this is where I see a lot of opportunities for youngsters to come and contribute, do new products, new structuring, new tools, and make this business and this industry even further grow.
Okay. Tell me, you focused on the C&I segment in a big way. And today, I believe you have a large portfolio of clients who've been with you for a long time, right? That's what we call a seasoned portfolio. People who've been with you for 7 to 10 years. How's that experience been? What have been the big learnings? And what are the changes we can expect going ahead based on that?
See, the experience has been very good, I would say, because why I say good again, when I started this and when I went to the customers initially back in early 2015, 16, that time. So for me, the first thing was to educate the customer that how solar can operate on your plant, because when it comes to power generation, we have like our mind goes to the traditional DG sets and all. Now for a customer to say that, hey, you are still operating, you're still working, making your motorcycles in under the roof, but on the top of the roof there will be a power plant operating, right? To explain him that it will not puncture your roof, water will not come down, there won't be any current, the roof will not fall, all those kind of so that. There was a time when we had to educate people that it is good. While we didn't talk of the benefits in terms of the cost saving and all in bricks, first is to explain them that it is safe. Right. So from that stage we have now people know that yes, it is there, it is established, it is working fine, everyone is doing it. So that kind of change has already taken place.
Okay.
Now what is left is people still are little bit I would say skeptical on that what happens tomorrow, in the sense is the government changing any policies, any regulations which can bring any charges to them, etc. So for that also a lot of certainty has come in, because last 5-6 years we have seen that whenever there were some instances of some arbitrary charges coming, so the authorities, whether it was regulatory commissions or even the Ministry of MNRE and all, they stepped in at the right time and to give people that certainty that once you have put something, it will not change. If it changes for the new ones. So those kind of things have been there. So the change now is all customers are aware. They know what they want. So when they come to us, they just come to us and say, okay, now what better you can do? Okay, I know that I can put this much. Okay, I know this is the cost. You tell me what better you can do. So that kind of changes happen.
So tell me, when you started off, in fact, I remember Amplas was in the news a lot simply because of this innovation for a lot of people called Opex Model, right? Where you said we will take the cost of the equipment and you just have to pay for the power. Have we traveled far enough for you to change that model today, or are you still going out with that model in the market?
We are still going on with the RESCO model.
Okay.
Call that as a RESCO model. In fact, we are trying to now take it even further, up. So the RESCO model, now I want to bring the RESCO model on the distributed green hydrogen side.
Okay.
So we're working on it. It's still, we have some plans. We are trying to work on few pilot projects. So the idea is that what we did in the rooftop story, which is I went to a customer and I said, okay, in your premise, you just outsource solar to me. I'll set it up, I'll operate, I'll maintain, I'll just give electrons and buy that. So I want to do the same thing with them with green hydrogen. So I say, you just give me a space, I'll set up an electrolyzer there, I'll bring the green power, which I do for you, right? Whether from on-site or off-site, I'll do that. And I'll convert it into, hydrogen and sell hydrogen to you. And now the market, earlier market had all sort of concerns. When we talk in the previous question, the people used to ask, oh, you will take loan on it, right? What if bank comes and seizes it? So all those concerns and issues were there initially. Now people are educated, they understand how it works. So I believe that learning would be helpful. So those kind of questions will not come. So I think this market continues to be there. And any which way, as an industry, we all know, companies have thrived on the outsourcing model. And there's basically outsourcing. You just be focused on your core. Put capital in your core business. I mean, there are people like us who are, experts and who are bringing you the latest technologies, the best operating this thing. So why you need...
So you've always been in the non-government space, so to say, if I look at it. Maybe some railway work has also been done.
Yeah.
Is that a conscious decision, or do we expect that to change if you look at larger scale projects now? I believe you have some very large projects coming up soon.
No, so within our group, Amplas is part of Gentari RE. So within our group, we have RE vertical. Amplas is part of the Gentari RE vertical.
Right.
And in India, we focus on C&I, which is commercial and industrial. So our other team in India would be looking at utility space. So as a company, we would be looking at utility and RE both. But as Amplas, we'll be focused only on C&I.
But the green hydrogen part would come under Amplas also.
The distributed green hydrogen.
Okay.
So the distributed green hydrogen, because that is also a C&I story. As we say, these are small size projects like 1 to 2 megawatt each at one location.
Tell me, since you mentioned green hydrogen, in many ways it seems like where solar was about 7 to 8 years ago in terms of the hype, expectations and the promise. Why do you believe green hydrogen could be a game changer for India? Or do you believe that at all?
I do believe green hydrogen. Well, one thing, while everything aside, I as a layman, one thing which strikes me the most is like perhaps this is the only opportunity which I see in the near future where it gives us an opportunity to become an exporter of energy as a country, right? So we do supply some electrons to Bhutan, Nepal, and all our neighboring countries. We can do that, but as a country to imagine, and if you ask me, like, in spite of being in the sector, you would ask me 10 years back, like, can India, export energy? I don't think so. We would have thought about it. So this is something which is, which is a exciting element. But apart from that, there are other things also which I believe are custom to India's overall canvas. One is the opportunity in terms of the total solar and wind profile which is available in the country, and the grid support which is available. Because see, for green hydrogen you need enormous amount of RE. Now for that RE going with storage, unless and until we have PSP coming, with battery storage at this stage is it looks difficult because of the costing. So for that you need grid support, some element of grid support, and the state governments are coming forward and giving some support there. So that kind of support would be required to provide RTC, affordable RTC. And India, because of its overall, the grid size and the complementary nature between solar and wind profiles, can offer that. So India has got that. Second, we are geographically also, we are placed at the right, we have our east coast and west coast. East can take care of the far east and the west coast can take care of Europe and other. So we geographically as well, we are, rightly placed. So I think overall India has the right ecosystem. We have to just find the right mix, and I believe there's one of those areas where I see our government working on the front foot, because even when the world started talking, we started making, rather the noise at the right time.
Right.
Even the policies of the site program, we were, one of the first ones to bring that out. We were generous enough in our, initial contributions there.
Right.
So I think we are working in the right direction. A little bit of push from the developers and the government is required to take it forward.
You mentioned the one grid policy as a big positive earlier. And now again, you mentioned the grid that exists across India. Do you think people underrate the relevance of the grid in India in terms of the achievement of having a grid which seemingly is fairly decent quality?
Like people as in, for common public,
Right.
it doesn't, because, as a common public, I guess, people
Take it for granted.
Yeah, so they say, okay, now power gets come, that kind of, But yes, as an industry, we do. Because, for example, now we were talking about the large project. So Amplas is doing this first ISTS connected solar project, again for C&I.
Right.
It's a utility scale though. So it's a 300 megawatt project which we are setting up in Bikaner.
Okay.
Connected to PCCL directly. Now, why I could do that project? I could do that project because I know that, from one project I can supply power to my customer in Andhra, customer in Assam, customer in, any place in the country. And then to, favoring it is the GNA regime which the government introduced last year.
Okay.
So I guess because of all that is only we were able to do this, plan this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have. At least for solar, I couldn't. Maybe with a thermal asset you can do, but not with the solar. Okay. So yes, as a developer, I see enormous value in the One Grid initiative, which we have developed. And yes, strengthening is required. Still, for free movement of power, there are, which the government is working on, and I'm sure there will be capacities augmented.
Going ahead, what are the big changes you expect to see in the sector? We've seen people talk a lot about carbon credits, for example, and their impact, or the impact of wind, for example, hybrid projects.
Yeah.
Which ones do you believe are going to dominate in the next 5 years?
So the hybrid is something which certainly would be the flavor. It is already a flavor now. Last couple of years, even for Amplas, all the new initiatives, what we're doing, most of them, we have hybrid. We're planning to do hybrid. So hybrid is something which will be continued for some time now, which should be there. But yes, the carbon credit, the IREC business, these are also very interesting and the new. I'm also keen, I'm watching this and I believe the virtual PPA market and the CFD contracts. So I believe that this is also something which will pick up. We're just waiting for some regulatory clarities around it. But we see good interest because see now, all things are moving. Our merchant market is getting developed. The turnovers and on the exchanges have increased. Okay, so that means the merchant market is developing. A lot of these international players who have their own commitments for net zero. But not everyone would be able to directly procure green electrons. And plus in their respective countries, and maybe they won't have enough opportunities there. So these data centers and these tech giants and other companies, they are coming to markets like India where they are exploring the CFD contracts or virtual PPA contracts, right?
So you mentioned power exchanges. How relevant have they been to you in terms of selling excess power or otherwise?
So, see, so far all our projects were like completely tied up and they were mostly state-connected projects, STU-connected projects. So, we hardly used to sell electricity on exchange. We have done in a couple of projects, but that was only then, intermittent phase while, let's say, when the commissioning was happening and all those types.
Right.
Okay. Otherwise, mostly all are tied up. But now for the newer projects which we are doing, these ISTS projects, I believe a chunk of it certainly will go into exchanges.
Okay. And we've seen solar rates have been very high in the last year. I think they've been averaging 5 rupees plus.
Yeah.
Is that something that gives you this, strength to say, look, I can come in just for merchant power sales? Does that how it work?
It's, it's not that straightforward because, we all know that these are, momentary. Maybe the moment can last 1 to 2 years, 3 years, but then still it cannot give me a 25-year certainty. And also for me, what is also important is that what is the view which the lenders would take.
Okay.
Lenders would want a long-term time. So I would say, I won't say that looking at the prices right now, I can take a 20 years, 25 years view. Okay. But yes, this certainly gives us a confidence. And maybe, what we and the other developers would be doing is maybe tying up 60-70% and then keeping 20-30% for sales.
We've seen the wind sector, which used to be doing, in fact, that was the early mover, so to say, in renewable energy. And then it kind of slowed down as solar took all the, glory in the last 2 or 3 years. But wind is now making a bit of a comeback. And I believe the issue was that it was considered more expensive than solar. Since you've handled C&I clients and a lot of your clients are not as price sensitive as you would expect, do you believe the C&I sector could India in a big way?
First of all, C&I are price sensitive.
Yeah. Maybe not all your clients. Okay.
They are price sensitive. Because see, it's like, while every company has its goal to go net zero and buy green power, but when it comes to the procurement person, now his KRA is to save the cost, right? So certainly we'll be looking at the cost. So that's it. See, the reason why wind is now again picking up is, and you rightly pointed out and you raised that concern in your earlier question that what happens if so much solar comes in. So certainly it affects the grid balance because only during the daytime you get power, which will become an issue because how much thermal you can keep as a reserve. Thermal will also have its own limitations of keeping as a reserve, right? So this is where wind will have to be brought in. And that's why we see a lot of movement now taking place of the winds. Second is the technology. Again, at wind also the technology improvements which have happened. Back then, wind turbines used to be in kilowatts, 1 megawatt, 2.2 megawatt. Now today we have 3x machines which are there in the market, 2.7x in the market, which are giving higher efficiency.
Right.
the rotadias have increased, the height heights have
Right.
increased, and which has increased the PLF now. I'm surprised that back then we used to look at 18-20% PLF. Nowadays, onshore projects are giving 35 plus PLF. So that has improved it has not only improved the LCOE, which is like, now as comparable to solar, but it has also given us a flatter curve. So earlier wind used to have generations only during monsoons, and
Right.
so now you see wind generation at few places throughout the year, and with some sort of like, flatter generation profile.
Okay.
And complementary in nature with solar, because wind you would mostly have in night or in mornings and evenings, and solar would be there in the day. So that's where importance of wind has increased. And not only in the C&I, but also in utility, the newer projects, whatever near comes, I would believe there will be some element of hybrid involved in all of them.
Okay. So tell me, every large developer today has some sort of a target they want to talk about, And Adani and Green Energy might talk about 25, New Power says a certain amount. What is the number for Amplus that you really look at informally or formally? 5 years down the line or 2030?
See, as while right from beginning there has never been a number chase. I tell you, we have seen years where we have done like maybe 50 megawatts, 100 megawatts in the entire year. We have seen years, in this year we'll be constructing close to about 700 megawatts or something around that, right? And it's never like we've never chased a set number or target. Right from beginning, the approach has been, and which has been common through all our stakeholders. While when we were independents or when we had a private equity fund, and now we are part of a large conglomerate, it has always been to build good quality, safe, and quality assets, which should be rewarding for all the stakeholders, be it the customers, be it your financiers, everyone. And we have been working on that. So as and when we get the right opportunity, we'll do. There is no dearth or limit of capital.
Okay.
As a company, Gentari, we have a plan of achieving about 30 gigawatts
Right.
by 2030. So that's the goal which Gentari has. And we'll contribute as one of the part of the overall ecosystem. We'll contribute whatever best.
Tell me, you've seen the other markets in the Middle East, you've seen Southeast Asia emerging in a big way. Where does India stand today? Is it still one of the most attractive markets, or are other emerging markets also becoming very interesting?
So yes, there is. Every market throws a different this thing. Like markets in Southeast Asia, they are all mostly glued around Singapore. Singapore is a big hub there, and they have their limitations. So a lot of projects coming up in Indonesia, in Vietnam, who are planning to bring power to Singapore. So that's a different game. A lot of so all these markets are and there are different interests for those markets. India will always be attractive because of the overall system here, and we are on the growth path. I heard we're talking of like doubling up of our demand in next few years, and which is quite significant, and the kind of growth path we are with every increase, 1% increase in GDP, normally they say 1.5 times your power consumption increases. Our per capita income, per capita consumption is still very low when it compared to developed countries. Now, if we are the kind of push we have on manufacturing, the lifestyle increase which we are seeing, in the overall, the amount of air conditioning, the electric vehicles, the push on electric vehicles, all this, all these tech giants coming to India, the Apple factories, the Teslas, all this world. So I am seeing robustness in terms of the overall energy demand.
Okay.
And as we are right now, we are already working with a good balance between thermal and renewable. The demand for renewable keeps on increasing. And also one thing which I would highlight here is those issues which earlier were associated with Indian market, where there were payment issues, the government going back, all those things are of past now. And we've seen this time and again. Yes, there were disruptions in between, but then, the courts have intervened, the government has intervened, the new LPS scheme is working fine, the payments are coming. So all those issues being taken off, I think the attractiveness of this market increases, and it will always be attractive.
See, with that obvious, human resource abundance, so to say,
Yeah.
we've seen Indians, of course, doing very well abroad across sectors. We've seen Indian developers even make a significant impact outside, like in Saudi Arabia and other countries earlier. Do you think academics here has kept pace with what the industry really needs in terms of training, in terms of orientation, in terms of the kind of people you're seeing, in terms of their awareness? Has it improved, or is there some way to go?
No, it is it's certainly improved and it's growing, and that's, I don't have to say much because you mentioned yourself today, most of the CEOs across the globe are of Indian origin.
Right.
Okay, so academics wise, we have been doing good, and we have always been there. And it's not only, in engineering or in it's across, not only technology or software, it's like even finance, medical, across. So that ways, yes, as a country, academics wise, we are, our universities are right there on the map. The good, yes. So you always have those issues and shortcomings, but which are fine. But still, I guess as a system, it is working. So,
No, I just said it because, India is clearly going to be a manufacturing center also, key one, in fact. But you look at a country like Australia, they seem to be doing a lot more research and path-breaking research at that in terms of PERC and other, module technology than what we hear about in India. How do we change that? Or should we just look at more partnerships with Australia rather than Europe all the time?
yeah. See, then there's always, there are always two approaches. Certainly, if you do your own R&D, it gives you, the rewards are longer run rewards are there for you, right? But at the same time, you also have to be wary of the fact and your standing, right? So yes, see, we're still a developing country. We are still like, there are a lot of resources crunch is there for sure. It is there. We are making some progresses. But then yes, the amount of investments which can go into R&D is not that much. We are not doing that much. But then I would, it's quite a, contra view, but I would say that it doesn't matter that much because as long as technology is available in a globalized era where technology is available, maybe if I don't have the resources right now to spend on technology, it's okay. I will borrow the technology. I'll partner the technology. Okay, maybe I can do it like this. But if I have resources, then certainly it makes sense to put in those resources. But it requires huge resources and a mindset, and which is also, little bit. But all this with people going out, now coming back, the reverse brain drain happening. The technology-wise also, we have already started. A lot of R&D initiatives have taken place. And maybe through 3-4 years down the line, we'll start seeing that.
Sure, we've seen Amplas, of course, you've been a founding member. The company's come a long way. When you look back now, what would you really consider as the turning points where you thought, look, this is much bigger than we thought, or B, now I think we're going to be where we actually expected to be? When you look back now.
Well, I would call Sanjeev to answer that. But I tell you one thing that we never had that. We just went with the flow. I would tell you that. I remember when we started. The name of the company was Amplus Energy Solutions Private Limited, right? And the idea was that we want to be a energy solution provider. We didn't had a very long, a drawn path in our vision. Okay, yes, the vision was that to do good work. Whatever we do good. We do solutions. We provide solutions to our customer, whatever they require in their energy strategies. We do it that way. Then we kept on doing. We started with the rooftop. We were perhaps one of the few players who did rooftop on an organized and structured manner across India as a company bringing it. We invested heavily on the technology. We started building our own technology to manage the assets because we realized very soon that a rooftop business is not possible in the traditional manner. You have to think out of the box. And this is when we started heavily working on the technology side. We have our own software team who has developed this. remote monitoring, tool, which we use for all our projects, wherein we monitor our projects, not only maintenance of those projects, but also preventive maintenance, all our MISs, all the data sets,
Sure.
everything is done from that. So we did that. We kept on doing the rooftop solutions for our customers. But we realized that, with rooftops, what they're able to do is only achieve maybe 10, 20%, 15% of their load. Still, the bulk of their energy requirement is still being unmet. They're still buying from grid. So this is when we started exploring the open access space. And there were a lot of initially there were a lot of support from the respective state governments in terms of waiver of charges and banking support, etc. We use those facilities and we were able to give them open access solutions to the same customers. And now with open access and on-site, together we were able to take care of 70, 80, 90% of their. So that has been the journey. So as and when a customer approach to us and say that, okay, now this is fine, but now I want, let's say, I'm looking at battery support. I have power cuts here. I'm running a DC for that. Why don't you give me a battery solution?
Right.
So, okay, fine. We did something and we gave a battery solution to someone. So that has been the approach. It was always working like that, Sorry, when we realized that the banking support is now going off and customers would still need RTC kind of power without the banking support. So this is when we introduced wind into it. Right now with solar and wind, my CUF at solar was, let's say, 25%. With solar and wind, my CUF becomes 50%, 45-50%. Then we also added, then there were some customers who said, they not 50%, I need 95%. Okay, fine. So I'll do a large project, keep some capacity as merchant.
Right.
For some customers, I'll give 90% for the same project without storage.
Okay.
Some customers, I'll give them 45%, 50%. So those kind of, innovative structuring and agility we have always shown. And that has been the mantra here at Amplas, just keep on doing that. Now I mentioned about distributed hydrogen, right? So that has been the philosophy. Always be there as a preferred partner for the customer and walk through him with his energy transitions to me.
Talking of your customers, you had mostly corporate customers and all the bluest of the blue chips, in fact, in that sense. A lot of these companies set net zero goals 4 years, 5 years back, 2035, 2040. But everybody knows that prices have come down a lot for a lot of inputs since then. Do you believe there's a real cause or case for a lot of these companies to relook their net zero goals and become more ambitious rather than wait for regulatory pressure or pressure from COP, the next COP or whatever?
In fact, it is the other way around. I don't have to tell people. People are already doing that.
Okay.
Yes, people are already doing that. In fact, even if you hear, there was this meeting called by MNRE when a lot of these developers were there and also the consumers. And it was very heartening to note. A lot of consumers are saying, sir, my goal was 25, but I've already achieved in 23.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. Okay. And we are as a country, Indians, we are industrious, when we see that, yes, there is a benefit here, there is an advantage here, we don't wait for. We'll try to just, grab it from both of our hands. So we have been doing that. So I think people are not, I don't see people just sticking to the plan. They are being opportunists at the same time. If they're able to achieve it earlier, people are doing that.
Thanks. I think that's been long enough. Thanks.
I know, good.
Pleasure talking to you.
Same here.